Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, back with another Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. I am here to do a video I don't think I've done before. It's saying something. This is entitled Occult Matters, and getting into the Collins family and their obsession with the occult. The big question becomes, when did this start? When did this obsession with the occult start? And that is a question that really, realistically, when you look at it from a fictional sense, the first person you see looking into the black magic is Barnabas. And again, the question becomes, when did Barnabas become obsessed with black magic? Is it when he became a vampire? Was it when he was a human? Let's get into the contrast and concept of occult. We're talking not just talking black magic. We're talking rare artifacts that could exist or may exist that you're trying to find, or maybe you stumble upon. Now, I'm not going to get into the Indiana Jones aspect, though that would be an interesting discussion here with DS, because though Indiana Jones is not a part of the DS universe, I'm not meaning the literal character. I mean in the way Indiana Jones found artifacts. Because I guess I will get into it, goddammit. I say I'm not going to, but then I do. Indiana Jones found artifacts, that were religious. They weren't necessarily occult conscious, at least in the first movie. Now, things would change later, but when you look at how he found them, he either found them by looking into the actual historical recording of when the Ark of the Covenant went missing, and all that stuff. And they use that in the movie. But that's the movie. The question becomes, did any of the Dark Shadows family members actually go looking for the occult? Now, later on, this question is going to get answered in a resounding yes. Desmond Collins, one of my favorite characters John Carlin ever played. When he had brought the severed head of Judah Zachary to Collinsport into the house of Collinwood as a gift to his brother, who he didn't know at the time was dead, and he really wasn't dead. And then he kept the head for himself. Because we know Desmond has an obsession with the occult. So we have two brothers who are obsessed with the same thing. Remember, Quentin did build a staircase of time. Quentin did like to perform a seance. Quentin, this Quentin is the 1840 Quentin is related to the 1897 Quentin Collins. He's his ancestor. And that Quentin is obsessed with the occult. Remember, he has the I Ching ones. He knows Evan Hanley, his lawyer, in 1897, isn't obsessed with the occult. No, Evan Hanley isn't a Collins, but your association with people who have maybe either A, occult ties, or B, are obsessed with it, are going to matter at the end of the day. Evan Hanley, to my knowledge, did not have direct occult ties. He was obsessed with it too. Their occult knowledge was sort of amateurish when you're comparing it to a Count Batofe, when you're comparing it to a Magda, and that's where you get into the supernatural aspect, in a sense of, should mere mortals mess with the occult? And the answer always is usually, well, no, it shouldn't. But what if the mere mortals become supernatural creatures and become part of that supernatural world that those same people who know about the occult are a part of? So, sorry, I wasn't trying to get off the beaten path. When did Barnabas get interested in the occult? Okay. Again, when we look at 1795, he does dabble, he does get his fortune told, in a sense, by the form of tarot cards. So Barnabas is, at that age, 40, which he's what, 40? He's getting married at 40 years old. He's going to get married. He doesn't get married to Josette. We know that. I'm not going to tell that whole thing. But Natalie Dupre, Josette's aunt, is reading tarot cards. So we know Josette's family members, at least one of them, has interest in that world. She might not be, completely obsessed with it, but she has an interest. Is it an interest of, learning evil deeds? No, it's just an interest. It's just a hobby, as she puts it. So her interest is more of a hobby. That we know. What is Barnabas's interest in the occult? It's to find out how his life is going to play out. And that sort of gets interesting when you think about it, because before you get into Barnabas the vampire, and I've talked about this, you got to get into Barnabas the man. Who was he? As I believe my buddy Patrick McRae and Alan Glant did a video getting into the history of Barnabas Collins and how little we really know. And this is what I mean by, this is what I think what we were meaning by little know. In 1795, Barnabas had shown an interest into the occult with the tarot cards. Is that a heavy obsession? No, but it's a beginner's guide in a sense, and that's where I take it. That's where I take it, where Barnabas really first got his interest. Now, did that interest just start there? I would say no, because your interest doesn't just start here, it started somewhere else. And most likely, and again, most likely isn't fact, but most likely is most likely, it would be Martinique. I would say, when Barnabas traveled the world, the occult caught his eye. Now, did he go deep into the occult? No, not heavily, but deep enough to know, and so did his uncle Jeremiah, and to know what a witch was, to know of witches. You got to remember why people are coming to America. They're coming to get to America to get away from the evil that plagued Europe. Witchcraft, stuff like that, the black magic, so to speak. So, in 1795, by that time, the war for America's independence had, long been over. Or had at least been over. But America was a country now. Now you get into people living in America and what that looked like. You can take people away from the occult, but does that mean people stay away from those types of things? And the answer is clearly no. When Barnabas traveled the world and he met Angelique, even before he met Angelique, he probably looked into the occult. He and Jeremiah knew about witches. They knew that witches don't cry over man-made love, a man they love. So they knew that. They knew enough to get by, probably, we'll say. And I think that's fair to say. They may have not knew every facet. Do people know what a vampire is? Yeah, they knew what a vampire was. They knew what a member of the undead was. Vampires. It becomes a question of, too, with occult. It would be interesting to know, because we don't know what type of, we know, where are the Collins when they're looking into the occult? Or when they're looking into it specifically? If Barnabas goes on that world quest and meets Angelique, Is it Angelique who introduces him to it? I would say no. And the reason I would say no is because Barnabas doesn't know Angelique's a witch. Okay? That's why I would say no. It wouldn't be Angelique. It would be too direct. Now, could it be an indirect thing? Sure. There could be that. Again, the question becomes where are they getting their basis for their research from? That would be the question in tow, because you and I live in a nonfiction world that we know where we get our research from. We get our research from, Bram Stoker's Dracula and other novels. We also get our research from the history of the real life Vlad the Impaler. Was he a vampire? No, he wasn't. But vampires, the legend of the vampires started very simply. They used to put bells in coffins, and if you heard that bell ring, it meant you buried the person alive. That's what the bell was used for. And then that's what started the legend of the vampire. Is that what started the legend of the vampire in Dark Shadows? We don't know, because here's the thing: the first time you hear about a bell in a coffin isn't in the past. It's in the present day. It's Elizabeth thinking she's going to die. She's going to be buried alive. And so they build her a mausoleum. They build Elizabeth her own mausoleum, her personal mausoleum to put her coffin in. So there's that. And she's not embalmed either. She's not dead. Thank God, right? So the question becomes how does the Collins family, where are they getting their research ultimately is what I'm saying. Barnabas being fascinated with the occult, being fascinated with tarot cards. Now this is probably not he's always wanted to dabble in that sort of thing. And he says that sort of thing, well, this is not the first time you saw a tarot deck. Where did Barnabas first see something that was considered occult? Not a cult, occult. An occult artifact, something that was connected to it. Maybe not deeply connected to it, but something connected, but somewhat connected. Because there are those items that aren't necessarily deeply connected, but are somewhat connected. I'm probably just fucking off the rails. But I do think this is a good way to sort of question, when fictionally did the Collins family, where are they basing their information from? Is it from the old tales of Europe? Now, I would say yes. To answer the question, if you held a gun to my head and said pick a way they learned about it, I would say the two ways they most learned about it was, coming to from Europe to America, and B, hearing about it from passed down stories, and then C, traveling the world, traveling to other destinations. I would say their research isn't so much research, but perhaps firsthand experience. Not so firsthand experience that they're encountering a vampire, no. But they know how to destroy a vampire. You destroy a vampire by sunlight. There are things that they don't know about a vampire because they look for a cure. They're not looking for a way to destroy Barnabas. They're looking for a way to cure him. Destroying him would be easy. stake through the heart. They do find they. I don't think they were aware of the silver bullets. They did become aware of them, though. Joshua did. Um, and they also, but they don't do that. They chain him up in a coffin. They figure what instead of destroying the vampire, you could entomb him, literally. And that's a method Dark Shadows used. The Collins family. So now, when you look into the Collins family, what was the difference between them and their ancestors? Primarily, I would say their ancestors did not want to touch the occult. They more wanted to destroy it, but also they were greedy landowners too. Um, but obsession does die hard. Your generations, when you get into generations, descendants tend, though they have the last name Collins, and they have that same pride lineage. A lot of times they'll break away from the traditional matters, meaning, okay, Abigail believed in witches. She saw a witch anywhere she went. Joshua really didn't care, as long as he made money. Okay? When you get into the older Collins family, yeah, they cared about that stuff. They were looking, Judah Zachary was a prime example of this. Where they put Judah Zachary on trial, you find out Miranda, sorry, Angelique was one of Judah Zachary's disciples, if you will. And she turned on him. Probably more than disciples. Probably. And so, though those Collins family members, the eldest, members of the family were against occult-like matters, the younger Collins generation gets into it by hearing the stories passed down from Europe. They figure if they they don't, because they don't hear the name Judah Zachary. They hear the name Gerard Stiles, right? Gerard Stiles is like, the ghost of Gerard Stiles isn't what they think, and that's a common occurrence in DS2. It's like, okay, why is Gerard Stiles haunting Collinwood? What's going on here? Like, what's the deal, right? Now, when you get into the Dark Shadows idea of a cult, what the Collins family members don't know, they will do their damnedest to find out. And they will recruit others to help them. Whether those others want to help them or not, the Collins family will is strong, and they will do their damnedest. It really ties back to that trial too. Just like they're doing the damnedest to get rid of Judah Zachary, the Collins family members do their damnedest to find out what's ailing their family, especially when it's the occult, the supernatural. Again, occult matters in Dark Shadows. Because the Collins family have, whether it's for, against, whether they collect or just happen to have that artifact intact, the Collins family members seem to have a connection, or how do I put it, a connection, maybe not a direct connection, but a connection either through somebody else or through one of their family members or through events to the occult. So there's that. I hope I did good on this video. I have no idea. I just rambled, I think. um, yeah, I'm going to give some shout outs here. Shout out to Christine and characters. Christine Pierce Caratelli's Between the Shadows. Link to their description. Link to their channel will be in the description box. Shout out to Collins. Yeah, Collins Port After Dark. Alan Gallant. Shout out to Penny Dreadful. Terror Column. Links to their channels will be in the description box. Go watch Dark Shadows content if you haven't figured that out already. All right, guys. You have a good day.